Welcome to MalcolmPresents.com and our show, Courtney on Health. As I say, Malcolm Presents is a unique format featuring many different shows. Again, that you can only hear on MalcolmPresents.com. Actually, Courtney distributes her own thing at Courtney on Health.
Right.
Anyway, welcome, guys. It's a Labor Day weekend, and
yeah, we're recording on Labor Day. So we're supposed to be. We're supposed to not be doing any labor, but hey, we never sleep.
Labor of love.
This is a labor of love.
Why don't we call it non-Labor Day?
You know, it is a labor of love. I don't know. Non-Labor Day. We're trying to pay homage to the workers. And this started in the I believe the 19 teens or the 1920s. Anyway, that's when Labor Day started, or at least the seeds of it started. So here we are. Hi, Courtney. And hi, Malcolm. And welcome again to Courtney on Health, the podcast, Zoomcast series about how to get tips on nutrition and exercise, which are given by Courtney Gravenese, who is a registered dietitian with a Master of Science degree in nutrition and applied physiology. Courtney is an experienced nutritional and health consultant in the New York metro area. And it goes so beyond that right now. It could be in Jupiter for all we know. You know, there's a moon, is it Io, that they could have life. We don't know. Maybe, and they'll need a good nutritionist, you know. So Courtney, get ready.
But a nutritionist for an alien, I don't know whether that would be the same. You might have to take additional courses, Courtney.
I think so.
There should be alien.
Nutrition for a Martian might be different nutrition for an Earthling. It's a whole new spectrum of medicine. It's amazing.
What can you do? You guys hearing me okay?
Yeah,
all right.
I hear you.
My mic is like on yellow for some reason. I don't know why. Anywho, so listen, guys, we're easing into fall. Temperatures are cooler.
Temperatures are cooler,
except in LA where they're melting.
It's like 100. It was 116 in Woodland Hills.
That's insane.
Over here it was 108 in Sherman Oaks.
I don't have an answer to that, but we have to alter our lifestyles, I think, with climate changing, and we're gonna have to figure that out. Because anyway, but hey, here in the East, it's a little humid today, but it's going to start to get cooler and crisper, and we want to enjoy the beautiful weather while it's here for a little bit before the ice and snow show up. And it's a good time to take advantage of the scenery and the great outdoors, as I said, before the snow arrives. And it would be good to take a walk or bike or take a hike. Get outside with family and take a bike and hike. Get outside with family and friends and start a game of soccer or football or basketball, and work those muscle groups and get your heart pumping. That's good, because I know Courtney's going to say that we have to do that. So find a good activity and stay with it. And it's also good for your mental state to be out in nature and outside. So Courtney, with that, can you start us off with some tips and exercises and things we can get, fall into for the fall?
Absolutely. So hello, happy Labor Day to both of you and to everyone. So given that, much of the country is slowly moving into more temperate weather, a break from the heat, I realize, just so you know, for those of you who are listening, who are still experiencing the tremendous heat, go back to the tips that we gave at the beginning of the summer on how to maintain your exercise routine in the extreme heat. Because hopefully there'll be a break for you all over the next week or so, but you don't want the high heat to prevent you from staying active. Now you might need to move it indoors temporarily, but follow those tips to keep you on the road to wellness, given the high heat that you're experiencing. For much of the United States, it is given sometimes we'll get a high heat day, but it's a great time of year because it isn't too cold, it's not too brutally hot, to get outside and either start your exercise activity routine or to maintain some kind of activity routine. So you guys know I'm talking about this all the time. So finding ways to get folks to meet their wellness goals a little bit, make it a little bit easier for them. So not everybody has access to fitness centers, which is, a problem for a lot of folks. But the good news is you don't need to spend a lot of money necessarily to get outside and participate in some kind of sport. You mentioned some of them, Maxine. Pick up basketball. So yeah, you do need access to a court. You do need a basketball, and you need a group of people, or at least one other person to shoot hoops with. But a lot of communities are setting up more space like this, open space, park space, that includes things like basketball courts. So you can get out there and participate in a pickup game. So that's more organized, sports, either for, a group of people or a small, number of people. We've spoken about this before. Walking outside in particular is a fantastic way to meet your minimum number of steps. So you guys know, you guys are familiar with the steps, right? The recommendation to, okay.
My watch has all my steps every day, which and heart rate. It's amazing what these things do. If you can get one, I recommend it. It's a good tool if you can afford it, or maybe get it as hopefully a gift during the holidays or something, and say, hey, I want one of these. It's a good thing to have, because it monitors, things you do health wise. And I find it a really, good. This is the most used thing I could. That and of course my phone.
Right. So speaking of that, Maxine, so I agree with you. I think people are motivated by different things in order to stay active. And I do feel like, in my experience and what the data show, is that it is a motivating tool, because you can see just how much you've done in a single day or of course the week. So you guys probably know, and most people do know, that even in the absence of a type of watch, our phones track how many steps. So, and I actually know of no one that doesn't have a phone. So use that as your motivating tool to keep track of your steps. And the reason why I'm bringing steps up is because many people, almost everyone, can participate in the sport or the activity of walking. Now, of course, some folks have some, osteoarthritic type issues for knee pain, and it might be problematic. But in the absence of that, it really is a great activity. We do have data now that show us that, no surprise, over the pandemic, the average number of steps per individual went down, and we've yet to see that come back up again. So the recommendation is 10,000 steps a day, which I don't know if you guys know is 5 miles. So from my perspective, I actually think that's fairly lofty for the average person who's not quite yet active yet. But right now we're only seeing numbers in, say the 4,500 range. So 4,500 steps a day. So we really would like to see that number creep up, certainly back to pre-pandemic numbers, which was around, 5,500, but a little bit closer to that 10,000 steps.
Well, I cannot, for some reason in my mind, I hate counting steps.
Yeah, well, that's why the tools are nice.
That's why you have this, Malcolm.
Yeah, but a bit, you gotta buy a watch. What I do is basically, if I was, as you know, into running. Whatever my route is, if it's a street route, I take my car and I measure it. I put the speedometer on 0 and I measure how many miles that I went.
Great.
But generally, also, if I live next to a park that has a track, like the track has, it's a half a mile track, so and generally, most of us are next to a school, and the school has quarter-mile tracks.
Yep.
So there's no, and as far as equipment, all you need is a good pair of sneakers, running shoes.
Yeah.
That you shouldn't scrimp on. The shirts and the clothing is optional.
That means you can walk in the nude? Is that what
you can walk in the nude?
Yeah, nobody wants that. Nope.
No.
Well, it's only recommended for people who are in shape already.
Well, how do how do they count steps in the nudist colony
Oh,
with no
gosh.
watches?
But,
I
all
don't know.
right.
All right. Anyway,
Okay, you got your,
But when the clothing, if you all remember, so I agree with you, Malcolm, you don't need to spend a ton of money, but if you are somebody who's trying to keep your activity level up, in really, really warm weather, where that wicking material is going to be in that lightweight, the material that has sun protective qualities to it. And then of course, in the winter time, when you need a different set of clothing.
right.
So that's when it does get, you need to pay a little bit more attention to it, but
That-
you're right.
Yeah, it gets pricey, but on the all, if you know, it's like between 65 to 75 degrees, you can just wear, you know, cotton clothes.
Yeah, and there are,
Synthetics.
I'm appreciative that not everybody lives in an area that might have a lot of open park space. Even if you live in the city, however, you know, I know in Manhattan, I think I've, you know, it's been a while since I've lived there, but wasn't it like sort of a certain number of
20
streets?
blocks.
20 bucks.
20
So
blocks.
there you go.
Purportedly,
So-
equal a mile. And when I was working in the city, I used to walk from Grand Central to Washington Square Park.
Yeah.
That was a nice walk.
So, you know, you can do things like that. Like I said, I am seeing a little bit more open space. Malcolm, you mentioned the schools. So a lot of schools have, you know, tracks that you can, as long as you're a resident, you can certainly participate in. And quite frankly, even if you're not, I mean, I don't know how strict they're going to be about, you know, checking. But so you want to find these opportunities in particular to get outside. For those of you who already participate, finding hiking trails, and I know that the Northeast is not alone in this, there are pockets of the United States that have incredible trails available to them. And although hiking shoes are nice because they offer more support, they're a little thicker. So if you step in something, you might, you know, like a twig or something, it's not as likely to go through like a nylon sneaker. So although it's nice, not necessarily, you know, absolutely required for hiking. Just make sure you've got a map. And I actually would recommend either taking a screenshot of the map, just in case, or paper map, whatever you've got, rather than just relying on, you know, going in live, because, and this has happened to me before, if you're hiking on a trail, you might not have a signal. And if you're relying on that to pull up your map for you, you're going to be out of luck because there's no signal. So you always want a backup plan for safety. Ideally, you want to hike with somebody else and not by yourself. And you want to be aware, particularly as our days are getting a teensy bit, you know, our daylight gets a little bit less and less as we approach, you know, December. You want to be mindful of the sunset, because the last thing you want to do is time this inappropriately and then end up coming back through a trail when it's, you know, after dark. So you always want to think all of this through, making sure you've got water with you. In some cases, if it's longer, you want to make sure you've got some snacks with you just in case, but getting out and hiking it. If you're lucky enough to have a bicycle, absolutely seek out some biking trails. Again, in parks are the best place. If you are biking on the road, for safety, you want to make sure you've got a helmet. And I think almost everybody, I try to instill this in my kids. I still see folks outside. You always bike with traffic, and you always walk and run against traffic. So with your wheels, you consider yourself a vehicle. Without them, you want to see what's coming at you, so that you could dart off the road if somebody's not paying attention, or like I see multiple times a week, folks looking down at their phone as they're cruising along, sadly. So,
Well,
walk, I know
you
my
know
feet
what
are
the
out
most
there.
the
What's
danger
that?
thing in running is when you're at a crosswalk and the light, either the light is going with you or not, and you step off the curb, make sure you make eye contact with the driver of the car, because many of them make a right turn without looking to the right. What they do is they look to see if there's any oncoming traffic. So they're looking to the left and they don't notice you on the right as you walk off the curb. And there was many a times where, you know, I'm walking in the crosswalk, and all of a sudden this guy makes a right turn and I'm knocking on his hood and he looks apologetic at me. fine, he
Yeah.
might be apologizing because he's looking at his cell
Well,
phone,
he
looking the
didn't
wrong
hit
way,
you.
but I
Right.
might be hit by a car.
It's
You
a
gotta,
great tip, Malcolm. Absolutely. Just for safety, you really have to have your wits about you and be thinking defensively like that. Absolutely.
yeah, you're right about the phone. People are looking at their phone now, convincing someone to take a hike, like, how do you even do that? I mean, let's go take a hike. Well, let's go for a walk. You got to kind of pull them out. I don't know. People during the pandemic, no one wanted to go anywhere, but people did go outside because they
Mhm.
knew they would be safer in terms of, not hopefully getting,
Right.
in touch. So there were, I think, some areas there was a bit of an upswing because people, I mean, in our neighborhood, people were walking more than I've ever seen during the pandemic.
Absolutely.
I have, I met more of my neighbors during that time
Absolutely.
than I did before. So maybe there was a positive in there. Well, we don't want to use the word
But
positive, but
that's
something
a
good in there
great,
somewhere.
it's a great way to, if you're trying to get yourself out the door and you need a little motivation. And I really am trying to make it my mission to try and get as many folks to try and just be as active as they possibly can, whatever makes them happy. But instead of, sometimes people find it intimidating. So their neighborhood walks might be the lowest lying, fruit for them. So you might grab it and say, listen, let's just walk for 15 minutes on the street, in our neighborhood. Or if you live in the city, let's just walk for 20 blocks or 10 blocks. Anything more than 0 is going to be a move in the right direction. And then little by slow, as you get your wind up, you get stronger. You add a little bit more on. I often encourage, if you don't have a buddy, and you all have heard me talk about the importance of the buddy, whether it be an animal buddy or it be a human buddy.
I have an animal buddy.
An animal buddy, that's the best motivator. But, and this podcast included, find something entertaining to listen to. Again, keep your wits about you, see what's around, but find something interesting to listen to while you're walking. It makes the time pass very, very quickly. And in many ways, you almost feel like you're doing double duty, right? You're getting your exercise and your activity in, but you're also maybe learning a thing or two. So it's a nice way to combine two things.
So I'll say at this point, listen to Courtney on Health. Listen to the Many Shades of Green. Listen to
Yes.
Malcolm Presents. There's a bunch of shows on there. And so thanks. That was a good place for
Wasn't that a nice plug? So there it is.
I have a question about as it's getting colder and then it gets to the point where it's cold. How do you like the benefits of outside versus inside, even in the fall? And we could get days that are really warm, and then we can get days that are pretty cold. It's a little crazy. How do you figure out what you should do best in terms of maybe a gym versus or a treadmill in your house or something?
One of the beauties of the weather right now, and again, Malcolm, I know you're in a hot spot right now, but is that it's generally going to be temperate enough so that you don't feel like you have to, hole up inside. So what I'm trying to encourage at this time of year is to get some kind of plan going. So unless it is, really bitterly cold outside, and we shouldn't see that for quite, for a couple of months, at least in this part, you should always try to get outside, at least, even if you're not participating in an activity outside, and hopefully you are, is to get outside and get some exposure to the sun, to the fresh air, even if the sun is not out, the natural light that is outside, as opposed to the artificial light that is inside. Why? Because we see year after year the data supporting the fact that external light outside of your home, that natural light, is far more beneficial in terms of feeding into your internal clock, your circadian rhythm, to help with, in particular, sleep, but also to help with mood. So even if I'm working with somebody who's, homebound and in a chair, hopefully they have a family member, somebody with them that it helps them get outside and get some exposure to that natural light, whether the sun is out or not. So go ahead, Malcolm.
Yeah, well, there are good studies, and I'm sure you've read them, in Northern Europe, where, can the light time, the daytime changes, and a lot of the times they're in darkness on, for a good 24 hours a day. So there's no sun.
Right.
And there are studies about what it does to the mood and to the body. And in fact, I think there's some studies with artificial light that they have and glasses that they wear. So they're not in darkness all the time. Because without the sunlight, you're in trouble.
Yeah. So you're right. So we try to create that. And so, but the only way to really get that exposure is to be out, outdoors. So that's why I strongly encourage to, get outside, any kind of activity that floats your boat, either on your own or, with a family member or a friend. If you've got, check into local tennis courts. And I know not everybody's got a tennis racket, but you might be able to pick one up. Lots of communities now have these buy nothing websites and apps. Have you guys heard of these?
Right. And it's also the take it or leave it shop,
There's take it or
at
leave it
farmers
shops.
markets. So
You'd
you
be
could,
surprised the stuff that people give away. So it's always worth a look. You can look for bikes on there. You can look for tennis rackets on there, basketballs, equipment. It's absolutely worth a shot to take a look in there. You never know. And there's no hidden message. It literally is free. You just have to figure out a pickup.
And there are a lot
it's
of
amazing, actually. It's really.
and there are a lot of
good
resale
thing.
shops.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That you can buy equipment or go to like Goodwill, and they have good equipment or usable equipment at almost no cost.
Yes, absolutely.
And what I'm going to say, that the trick of running in cold weather, my one word is layering.
Mhm.
You don't have to wear something really warm, because as you gain mileage or walking or running, the body heats up itself. And if you're wearing something too warm, it doesn't let the air out.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So what you do is you wear like maybe three different layers, and as you get warmer, you take the layers off and wrap it around your waist. And
Right. So that's all great tips about, because I think a lot of the barriers to people participating in an activity, particularly when the weather swings in opposite direction, is that they don't know how to, the dress is, you're either too cold or you're too hot. So that's the key. That is going to be the key, so that this becomes a sustainable activity and it's not something that's a one and done. What we want to encourage is ongoing participation in activity, and being outdoors, being in nature is so important for the psyche, to reduce depression, to help with sleep, to decrease hunger long term. So that you're not, as hungry all the time, or grazing all the time. It's so critical. If you're a parent, encouraging your kids to be outdoors instead of being behind a device. And I don't think any parent who's listening, I know you get it and you're feeling it along with me. It's become hard work to pull the kids away, being some kind of magnet for them, to pull them away from these, the many devices and gaming that exists right now. So we're going to keep seeing more research about the effect of that on our kids as they get older, and overall health and academics, and psyche and social behavior. So we're really, I don't think we've seen quite yet the issues associated with it. So all we can do as parents and friends is to encourage as much as possible, to make sure that outside as much as possible, stay as active, and activities, participating in something that's not central around gaming.
Well,
Yeah,
in Brooklyn, growing up, and Malcolm will probably say,
I was going to
yep,
say that.
yeah, we would go out at 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, literally go out. You meet your friends, you bike, you play games, you get into a little trouble or whatever you're going to do. Not bad trouble, good trouble. And at 6 o'clock, your parents would scream dinner, and you'd come back in, and everyone got exercised. I didn't have one friend that was, that had a weight issue. Everyone was kind of on the slim side because we ran around all the time.
Mhm.
And it makes you want to pine for that sometimes. I would tell my son, and this is, in the late 90s, like, go outside, get your friends, play on the driveway. Here's a basketball, get outside. And luckily, in this area, there's also, sports, so you can sign the kid up and throw them out there too. But that you're so right about that we're just stuck with these devices. See,
Yeah, well,
And-
when my kids were young, again, they're in their 20s. We had to join like the Little League or the soccer league or the volleyball league. When I was growing up again in Brooklyn, which we didn't, we were raised, pretty much within a mile of each other, me and Max. We'd go out in the street. Every crack on the sidewalk was another game. Hit
I
the
love it.
penny off
right,
the
hit the
wall.
penny, right, right.
Stoop ball.
Stoop ball.
Punch ball in the street,
Stick ball.
Stick ball, two sewer men.
Go play in the street, two sewers,
right.
and then there would be a lookout for the cars.
Right,
Whoever
and
wasn't up or
right.
playing would scream car, and then you would hear that just throughout all of the air. I mean, it was, I guess we're being pretty nostalgic now, but it was really awesome to grow up that way.
No, it sounds
yeah.
wonderful.
I mean, literally every crack on the street there was a game for. Every design on the where they paved the street, we had a game for. We had king against the wall, where you bounce the ball first and you hit the ball.
Yeah.
And my dad, and I know we're coming up against our hard stop, but
you thought we'd never
I
go to
know.
our
You
hard
thought we would never
stop.
get through it.
So
'Cause
two things about this. One is that, when my dad just visited with us, and he's been in the house that I grew up in. He's still there, and new families have come in. And he says, and he knows that there are young kids there. He said, I don't see kids playing. And I know there's kids in all those houses. So this was a community. I know this, it was a circle. So we biked, we sledded, we were out playing, hide and seek. He said, I never see kids. So for him, it's very interesting from a perspective of raising his kids there. So that versus what it is now. And again, probably part of that pull is activities, because kids are hyper scheduled, right? And then of course the pull of devices. The other thing is, I don't know if and I'm going to have to do a segment on esports gaming, because it's taking hold. So they have scholarships now for universities.
Are you kidding?
Nope. Full scholarships.
Oh my God.
So I'm going to have to investigate this because I don't know much. Just a little bit.
That's an interesting topic. That's for sure. Getting on your keister all day and getting a scholarship to Harvard. Okay. I don't know. So we are on the wrap time now there.
There it is.
We're the wrap. I'm going to wrap.
We have 2.5 minutes.
All right. So it's okay. It's important for people to, when you say the word take a hike, it has different meanings, but in this case, we probably mean, go for a hike and be out. It's a good activity for families, especially on the weekends, if you can drag your loaded kids in there.
Well,
That's a whole other issue, is also can we pull back a little on that, on they're just completely hyper scheduled, and it's to the point where you got to give them some free time to go outside or talk in person. I know with COVID it was crazy, but hopefully we're getting out on a better path now, even with that. And now there's new boosters coming up for me. I'm taking it for sure. So people have to know that's coming down.
I just took the shingle shot, so
so
but by the way, for seniors, there are also lots of groups in the neighborhood. And a lot of the times, I know in my area, which we're not too far away from the shopping malls, the indoor malls, in the morning before it opens, they'll have a group of seniors doing walking.
Right.
So I think an important thing, especially if you're not used to exercise, is to go with a group, because you meet a lot of friends in the neighborhood that are similar to you, similar background. And you just walk and talk.
You mean movie stars like you and Courtney?
Well, as I say, when my sons did the Little League, Forrest Whitaker was one of the parents,
Oh,
Warren
wow.
Beatty was there, and Annette Benning was very funny in the Little League. Everybody had to, work the snack bar. All the parents had to
What'd she
volunteer.
bring?
snack bar.
Caviar? No, kidding.
Yeah, but it's funny is you will get a hot dog or a hamburger and Annette Benning is serving you.
Oh, I love Annette Benning. Oh my goodness, I'd take a hot dog from her.
Me too, me too.
By the way,
Only
she
if it
is-
had Grey Poupon mustard
yeah,
on
I
it.
mean, no, she is so real. There was no air about her. She wasn't, oh, I'm Annette Benning. She was
Yeah,
like a
no,
parent. She was
she
a mother
seems
of
like she
the
seems
baseball
that
player.
way. Yeah, yeah, that's really
Okay,
cool.
now you can lead us
We
out.
ate
now.
up 2 minutes. There you go. All we do is need to talk. That's all. So I'm gonna take us out right now because I'm heading to the aeroporto soon. So thanks for joining us for Courtney on Health. To get more info, follow Courtney on her Facebook page, which is Courtney on Health, on Instagram at CLG Wellness, and on TikTok.
TikTok.
Woo! Visit her website, CourtneyGravenese.com. For more shows, go to MalcolmPresents.com and theManyShadesOfGreen.com. This is Courtney on Health, Smart Sound Nutrition, Strong Safe Fitness. We'll catch you again next time.
And guys, have a great Labor Day, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week. Have a great one. Be safe.
You too.
Bye.